Good morning, team. It is Tuesday, March 9th. I'm Amy Core, and I'm joined by Kevin Van Eck, and we are live out of the Goose Island office. Well, spring is coming one day at a time, so I hope you can get out today and enjoy this amazing day. But for now, let's grab our mugs and let's jump into the latest episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin.
Good morning, Amy. Good morning, everyone. Yes, grab your coffee. We're ready for another great episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin. Last week, we talked about how to act as a buyer's agent, and we're going to continue that series. We got such great feedback, specifically on what we do as buyer's agents that is great, and how we can act in a way that benefits our clients, not only those we're working with today, but those in the future. So today we're looking at it from the listing agent perspective. So how can we act as a listing agent to make sure that we're continuing to represent our clients well, but also tee ourselves up for future business and future business growth with clients by acting in the right way with how we treat other brokers and how we treat our clients.
That's right, Kevin. So today we are talking about being a listing agent and how to make sure to handle yourself in this really crazy busy market. We're excited because the market is doing great things, but it still is really important to make sure that we make a great first impression, no matter what, as a buyer's broker and as a listing broker. And it's also important in a market like this to make sure that we come from a space of having lots of patience and working from an angle or a position of kindness. There's lots of things going on. There's a lot of high energy and emotion that we are seeing in this market. So it's really important for us as brokers to work in the best way that we can. So remember, let's think about it. How important is a first impression when it comes to the success of a transaction? It can oftentimes be critical. So let's think about that as the listing broker. We know that a lot of these properties, we are getting a lot of showing requests. There is a lot of activity that's going on and many buyers brokers reaching out. Let's make sure that we do give a great first impression to everyone. Even if you are too busy or you feel overwhelmed, you can't seem too busy and you can't seem too overwhelmed. You've got to make the time for everyone. I hate to say it, but that's part of the deal. And we should love the fact that we are this busy right now because we always complain when we're in a market where we're getting no showings, right? But let's make sure that we're hospitable and we do the right thing for all of these buyers brokers. Because let's face it, we need these buyers brokers to show up and show your property so that you can get as much interest for your seller as possible and get them the highest price in the shortest amount of time for their place. And let's also remember, we aren't working against a buyer's broker. We need to work in collaboration with all of them. Because here's the thing, if we look like we are doing them a favor by getting them into the house and we act a little bit like we've got the upper hand, that's not going to set the tone for the right first impression. And let's also face it, we might end up going down a road with one particular buyer and their broker to get a house under contract or a property under contract. What happens when that falls out of play? Suddenly you may have to re-engage these other buyers brokers and see if somebody wants to come in and reposition or represent their offer. And if we kind of fluff them off or don't give them the time of day or don't communicate in the right way, it might be a lot harder to re-engage them. So just keep that in mind. The most important thing that we want to, iterate in this series or in this episode today is that you've got to be really clear. You've got to communicate well. You've got to have patience. You need to make sure that you're treating people the same way you would want to be treated if you were out there trying to get your buyer into a property and creating success for them. So just make sure you're thinking about that as you get out there every day and are dealing with all of your listings.
Those are great points. And I think working with other buyer agents is really important, but also working with your seller. We have to remember who we represent, right? And always working in their best interest. And sometimes when we're in a position of power or a perceived position of power where we expect a lot of traffic on our listing, we know what's happening in the market, we sometimes let our ego get ahead of ourselves, where we feel like we can make the decision that we know what's best. So bottom line, we need to remember that our sellers make the decisions. And our goal is to make it as clear as possible, number one, what the market is doing. Number two, what they can anticipate when we go live and as we start getting showings and traffic and potentially offers. And the whole goal is to make sure that they understand how to make a decision when we present them with the options. And that's the important role we play. is that we present the options in an objective way, the potential outcomes. We're not psychics. We can't predict the future, but based on our experience, we can predict what outcomes might be so that our sellers can make a decision and understand when they make that decision what the path and what could happen. So it's really important for us to make it as clear as possible for our sellers. Sometimes when we feel rushed or overwhelmed, like Amy was talking about, we don't spend enough time communicating with our sellers. We simply sling them offers. We recommend one of them for a specific reason, but they're not necessarily clear on why they would make a decision on any of the offers. So let's take extra time to make sure our sellers feel educated, that they know how to make a decision based on what's happening in the market and what's happening with their specific property when it comes to traffic and the offers being presented.
Really great advice, Kevin. Setting clear expectations with your sellers, but I also want to talk about setting clear expectations with your colleagues and those buyers, brokers on the other side of the deal. You know, communication with other agents is extremely important, and you should consider, you know, how timely you are in being able to get back to them. But I also want you to think about how you're communicating with them. You should really think about, when should I be picking up the phone and having a conversation with a broker on the other end, as opposed to just shooting them a quick text that might be abbreviated and not give a lot of good insight or information, or sending them an email. Let's face it, this market right now, there isn't a lot of inventory. So these buyers, brokers are really trying to secure places for their clients. And the more that you can communicate with them in a respectful fashion is going to be really appreciated by them. And here's the thing, you know, Kevin and I were talking earlier about stories that we're hearing where listing brokers are kind of getting frustrated because buyers brokers are reaching out and wanting answers and wanting them to get back to them with what's going on with their offer. We've got to understand the reason why they are pressuring you as the listing broker is because they're getting pressured. Think about it. They've got a buyer sitting at home thinking, are we going to win this multiple offer or are we not? We absolutely love this home. We hope that our broker is going to come through and the guidance that they gave us is going to help us win this house or this condo. So you have to understand, and you've been there before, whether you're a listing agent in one scenario, you've also been a buyer's broker. And we know what it's like when our clients are really worried about the outcome. So they pressure you, so you in turn turn around and pressure the listing broker. So think about that as you are a listing broker and how and what you can do to make sure that you clearly communicate. And the best thing that you can do is you can work with your seller and have a conversation about the need to set clear expectations and outline things so that the buyers, brokers know when they're going to be hearing from you. For example, maybe you're going to be presenting 2 or 3 offers to a seller, and they may not be available until 5 o'clock in the evening, where they can sit down and really focus and have a good conversation with you. Instead of not letting the buyer's broker know and just letting them sort of hang out there waiting for a response, why not reach out to all of them and say, here's the thing. My sellers and I are going to be speaking at 5 o'clock. I'd ask that you give us until about 7 p.m. to get back to you with their counter offer or their response. By outlining that, now they have something they can take back to their client, and it can at least put everybody at bay and feel comfortable. You want to make sure that you eliminate the unknown so that they don't start thinking that you're stringing them along, that you are taking their offer and that you're shopping it. You want to make sure the more that you can communicate with them, the better off everybody's going to be. Because here's the reality. You might move forward with one particular buyer, but we're seeing this a lot in this market. First offer comes together, but then it breaks up during inspection. What are you going to have to do now as the listing broker? You're going to have to reach back out to all of those buyers brokers who had backup offers and see if you can re-engage them. If they didn't love the way that you were working with them, they may be less inclined to really want to re-engage with you. So you've got to think about that. And the other thing that's also really important is that you're taking direction from your sellers, but you still want to make sure that you are presenting everything on a level playing field. You want your colleagues to feel like you are operating on the up and up. And a good example of that is sometimes a buyer's broker might ask that if you rejected their offer or they were not the winning bid, they may want confirmation that their offer was actually even presented. So you could take the extra step to to talk with your seller and ask them to sign the rejection line, which is available on all contracts. What that allows you to do is to just take that extra step to let the buyer's broker know that their offer was presented, and you can give this back to them so that they can in turn go back and talk to their buyers and let them know, yes, I did everything that I could. Unfortunately, this didn't come together for us, but it gives them the confidence to go back to their buyers. And we want to make sure buyers brokers have the buyer still has the confidence in their broker in this market, because things are moving fast. And unfortunately, a lot of people are losing, right? Not everybody's winning every deal. So we need to make sure that we're communicating and we're setting really clear expectations so that even if somebody loses, they still feel okay with how they lost.
Such great advice, Amy. Yes. I mean, setting expectations for other agents is super necessary. And so I want to go back to what Amy talked about at the very beginning, which is the kindness piece. And so oftentimes on the back end, we don't show the same type of gratitude or kindness that we need to make sure that our relationships with other agents stay strong. Now, think about this. When someone submits an offer, they've taken the time to see the property with their clients. They've taken the time to write the offer, to submit it, to give us the details. We should be grateful for that, and we should show gratitude for that. So when we get an offer, regardless of whether it's 10% below list or maybe it doesn't have all the terms we know it needs to be accepted, make sure that we thank that agent for the offer, confirm that you would love to work together with them, and then begin the process of negotiation based on where your seller wants to go. And so with this too, on the back end, if we have to reject an offer, if our seller decides not to work with that agent and their buyer for whatever reason, oftentimes we simply send a text. I'm sorry, they went with another offer, or we send an email rejection. But that doesn't feel good, and it really doesn't lead to future relationships and future collaboration. And in a market where contracts are falling apart, as Amy mentioned, we know that we need our seller to have enough backup in case that first contract falls apart. And if we don't treat that other agent well and the buyer doesn't feel like we treated them well, then they're unlikely to re-engage with us in a collaborative way. So when we need to reject, a hot tip here would be to call the agent and discuss with them. Tell them, thank you again for the offer. Unfortunately, our seller decided to work with another offer. I've got you on speed dial. If we can put something together in the future, just in case this one falls apart, would it be okay if I called you? And that's going to go a long way, and certainly much farther than simply texting the agent, I'm sorry, they chose another offer, and leaving a lot of questions there in the agent's mind about how their offer was presented, whether it was presented, and to Amy's point, whether there was anything funky going on in the background. And so when we have communication and solid communication with another agent, it leads to success for all of us because we're able to use our reputation where other agents enjoy working with us, and it will only further our ability to collaborate and get things done for our clients.
Really great points, Kevin. And because let's face it, we want to take a look at not just what's happening right now, transaction to transaction, but we want to focus on our long-term reputation, right? So many of us are developing this amazing real estate career, and you want to make sure that throughout the years, everyone is going to want to work with you because you are easy and great and collaborative and are a great communicator. So here's the thing. We talked about this last week when we were focusing on being a buyer's broker. Be a great buyer's broker. Be a great listing broker, just be a great broker. And you know what that means. It sometimes means taking a little bit more time for the small things to make sure that the people that you're collaborating with get what they need and that you communicate well so that they feel okay. You want to be the type of broker that all agents want to work with. And here's the other thing I'm going to say is we've got a lot of agents that might be newer to the real estate business, or they might be newer to a market such as this. Let's face it, not everyone has been in a super hot seller's market. I think this was probably my second one in even my own career. So some of this stuff that's happening is new to brokers. And if you've been through it before, don't be dismissive. Don't make them feel bad that maybe they didn't put something in correctly in the contract. Work with them because there are things in this world that you don't necessarily know, or it might be your first go around in certain situations. So make sure to be collaborative. think about how it is to be on the other side, because while you might be a heavy listing broker, you probably are working with buyers in this market. And it's pretty tough. There's a lot of people who are losing out on opportunity right now, and there's a lot of high emotion. So the more that you can be collaborative, that you can be one of those brokers that when people see your name on the listing, they put out a smile and they think, God, this is going to be a great opportunity to work with Amy, or a great opportunity to work with Kevin. That's your goal. You want to make sure that this is, this market is right here and right now. It's going to change. At some point, it's going to be a buyer's market again, and you're going to be begging for those buyers to come to your listings. So you want to make sure that your reputation and what you are doing right now is going to last out this cycle, because again, you need to be collaborative. You need to be communicative. You need to be that broker that everybody wants to work with.
And Amy, I wake up every day and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to work with you. So on that note, last week we asked you to share your favorite agents and what makes them your favorite agents to work with. We're asking for that again. If you haven't submitted who your favorite agents are to work with based on their communication, based on the collaboration, the kindness, the care, all of those things, send it to coffee@properties.com. We'd love to hear those stories, be able to share that, and specifically share that with your favorite agents as well. So send it into coffee@properties.com, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us today, and fill up your coffee.
Thanks, team. Make it a great Tuesday.